She walked onto the court with quiet steps and calm eyes, wearing no designer gear. No sponsors on her shirt, just a simple woman with a borrowed racket and a heart full of courage. Around her, the crowd barely looked up. This was Europe's richest tennis court, a place reserved for champions, elite athletes, and millionaires. No one expected much from her. In fact, some laughed. Some whispered, "She won't last 5 minutes." But she didn't come for applause. She came for something else. On the other side of the net stood a polished, pro-ranked, confident, celebrated. She had the crowd, the coaches, the cameras. She had everything except a clue about what was coming. From the very first serve, something shifted. The ball flew faster than expected. The simple woman didn't just play. She struck. She conquered. Each shot painted a new chapter, and every rally chipped away at the silence in the stands. By the end of the first game, people started paying attention. By the second, they were sitting forward in their seats. Whispers turned into gasps. The pro was trying everything: power, angles, strategy, but nothing worked. Point after point, the woman held her ground, never showing off, never losing focus. There was something raw and real about the way she played, like she wasn't just hitting a ball, but telling a story. A story of struggle, rejection, and quiet strength. Who was she? Where did she come from? How did a woman with no fame, no coach, and no money manage to turn the richest court in Europe into her stage? And what really happened between her and the pro player that made the match more than just a game? By the time the scoreboard read 6-0, no one was laughing. But the story was far from over. Because what happened after the match was even more unexpected than the win itself. Her name was Lena. No one in the crowd had heard it before. She wasn't on any ranking lists. No sports magazines had written about her. She didn't have an agent, a team, or even proper tennis shoes, just an old pair she wore until the soles nearly gave out. She came from a small village where tennis courts were made of cracked concrete and nets held together with string. People there didn't dream of playing in stadiums. They worked long hours, raised families, and hoped for something better. Lena had learned the game by watching YouTube clips, on a shared phone, and practicing against broken walls. She never had a coach, just instinct, repetition, and a deep hunger to prove she mattered. So when she got a last-minute invite to fill in for a scratched player in a qualifying round, she packed her things quietly, said goodbye to her mother, and took the cheapest bus she could find. No one knew what to expect. She didn't even have the right badge to enter the main gate. Security asked her twice if she was lost. Even the locker room felt too clean, too cold, too unfamiliar. But none of that shook her. She wasn't there to be liked. She was there because she believed she could fight. The pro player, Claudia Renner, had been tipped as the next rising star of European tennis. Sponsored by top brands, trained in elite academies since childhood, Claudia had everything Lena never did. But that day, for reasons no one yet understood, it was Lena who walked off the court without losing a single game. The crowd was stunned. Commentators fumbled for explanations. Cameras followed Lena, but she didn't stop to speak. She simply walked away in a celebration. No smile. And that silence only made people more curious. Who was she really? And why? Did she seem to be hiding something? The tournament staff didn't know what to do with her. Lena had no official coach listed, no accommodation booked, and barely enough money for a meal. When they offered her a press interview after the match, she politely declined and disappeared down a quiet hallway. Meanwhile, social media exploded. Clips of her powerful strokes and quiet determination started spreading. Who is the mystery woman became a trending topic. Fans and reporters began digging. But Lena had left no online trail, no training footage, no interviews, no junior titles. It was like she had stepped out of nowhere. Some said she was a former prodigy who vanished after a tragedy. Others guessed she had been secretly training under a forgotten legend. But the truth was far less glamorous and far more human. Lina had spent most of her adult life taking care of her sick father, cleaning houses to make ends meet and squeezing in practice when she could. Tennis was never supposed to be her future. It was just her escape, her way to feel free for a few minutes. Each day, but one person in the crowd that day remembered her. A former coach, now retired, sitting quietly in the VIP box. His eyes didn't leave her the entire match. He had seen that style before years ago, in a small club on the edge of the city. And he remembered what happened the last time Lina tried to play at a higher level, and how badly it ended. Now, seeing her back stronger, calmer, and completely silent, he knew something was coming. This match wasn't just a miracle. It was a warning. Someone had pushed Lina too far once, and she had walked away. But now she was back. And this time, she wasn't walking away from anything. The next day, Lina's name appeared again on the match schedule center court, prime time. This time, the stands were packed. Reporters lined the fences. Cameras zoomed in every time she moved. She didn't look at any of them. Her face was the same, quiet, unreadable. But something in her walk had changed. More grounded, more sure. Word had already spread in the locker rooms. Players whispered her name like a rumor. Some doubted her first win, calling it luck. Others watched her warm up and said nothing at all. Her opponent was a seasoned veteran, top 30 in the world. Powerful, aggressive, sharp. Unlike the day before, this wasn't someone who would underestimate her. This player had done her research. She came ready to crush the so-called underdog and send her back to where she came from. The opening minutes of the match were brutal. KV serves, sharp angles, loud grunts, and ruthless smashes. The crowd roared with every point. But Lina didn't flinch. She returned fire with a strange calmness, like she was used to fighting. In the dark, where no one cheered, where every point mattered more than the scoreboard. Her eyes didn't show nerves, only focus. Every swing came from somewhere deeper than training, like muscle memory born from struggle, not luxury. With each rally, she chipped away at the noise, silencing the crowd just as she had the day before. Behind the scenes, tournament officials scrambled. They had no background file on her. No sponsor wanted to claim her yet. Commentators began digging into her past, and what they started uncovering raised even more questions. A junior tournament she vanished from. A local coach who refused to speak on record. A sealed report about a match years ago that ended in controversy and silence, and in the stands. That same retired coach sat frozen, watching, remembering. Knowing exactly what was coming if Lina kept winning, because this wasn't just about tennis anymore. This was about truth. And truth, once it starts hitting back, doesn't stop until someone finally breaks. By the third match, the tournament had changed. What was once a polished event full of familiar names and predictable outcomes now had a wild card. Lina. She wasn't just winning. She was forcing everyone to pay attention. Players began adjusting their training schedules just to watch her. Some hoped to find a weakness. Others wanted to understand how someone with no record, no coach, and no support was taking down top-seeded pros like it was personal. And maybe it was. After her second victory, things behind the scenes began to shift. A journalist from an old regional paper reached out. He claimed to know Lina from years ago. He remembered her as a rising junior who disappeared overnight after an incident at a private tennis academy. He didn't give details, just a warning. If she's back now, there's a reason. Then came the real twist. Just hours before Lina's third match, a sudden withdrawal shocked the schedule. Claudia Renner, the same pro she had crushed 6-0, had pulled out of the tournament, citing personal reasons. But whispers and The player lounge told another story. Some said Claudia had filed a private complaint. Others claimed a quiet argument took place between her and a tournament official. No one knew the full truth, but one thing was clear: Lena's presence was making people nervous. Not just on the court, but off it. That evening, Lena's locker was found ransacked. Nothing was stolen, but her racket strings had been cut. Tournament. Security was called. Cameras reviewed. No suspect named. Lena said nothing. She simply borrowed another racket and walked out for her next match like nothing had happened, but something had. The tension was no longer just about tennis. It was about fear. Someone didn't want Lena to rise any higher. And as the crowds grew, as the cameras rolled, and as Lena stepped onto that court again stronger than ever, Kui's question wasn't whether she could win. It was what would happen if she did. The stadium was packed for Lena's semifinal. Not because she was the favorite, but because no one could believe she had made it this far. 3 straight wins. 3 top-ranked players eliminated. Rumors swirled. Tension hung in the air like a storm about to break. People weren't just watching a match anymore. They were watching a story unfold. A story that had been buried for too long. Her opponent this time was no stranger. It was the Academy's top star from years ago, the girl who once trained beside Lena. The one whose father owned the Academy where Lena's career had mysteriously ended. The match felt heavier than any before. Every point had history in it. Every look between them told a story the audience didn't fully understand. But Lena